She mistakenly entered the wrong hospital room and discovered a frightened young boy who desperately needed companionship. This child turned out to be the son of the city's most formidable Mafia don. A single night of compassion altered everything. Now, she resides within his stronghold. He is captivated by her, and his adversaries perceive her as his Achilles' heel. The fluorescent lights in St. Catherine's Hospital hummed like expiring insects at 11:47 p.m., and Nina Hayes was sustained by her third cup of abysmal vending machine coffee and sheer determination. "Miss Hayes, you must use the service elevator to Wing C," the harried intake nurse stated, barely glancing up from her computer. "The boy's paperwork indicates a VIP transfer." Nina blinked. "VIP? There must be a mistake. Tommy is from the shelter. He doesn't have..." "The system specifies VIP, third floor, East Wing." The nurse thrust a visitor's badge at her. "Hurry! They're preparing for surgery in 20 minutes. Nina seized the badge, her sneakers squeaking on the polished floor as she hurried toward the elevators. Tommy, the 7-year-old from the New Hope shelter, required an appendectomy. She had promised to stay with him, as he was terrified of hospitals. His mother had passed away in one the previous year. The elevator doors opened to a vastly different world. Gone were the chipped paint and congested corridors of the public wards. Here, soft, recessed lighting illuminated cream-colored walls. Abstract art adorned gilded frames. The scent of antiseptic mingled with something luxurious leather. Fresh flowers? A security guard in a black suit observed her as she exited, his hand casually resting near his hip in a manner that tightened Nina's stomach. "I'm looking for room 347, she stated, displaying her badge. "Tommy Rodriguez." The guard's earpiece crackled. He pressed a finger to it, listened, then gestured her through without a word. "Weird," Nina muttered, hurrying down the hallway, her canvas bag bouncing against her hip. She had packed Tommy's favorite book, Where the Wild Things Are, and a stuffed dinosaur he slept with. Poor kid. He'd already been through so much. Room 347's door was slightly ajar. She pushed it open and froze. This wasn't Tommy. A small boy sat on the massive hospital bed, knees drawn to his chest, dark curls falling over his forehead. He couldn't have been more than 6. His eyes, vast, brown, and utterly terrified, fixated on hers. Behind him, medical equipment gently beeped. An untouched dinner tray rested on the bedside table. "Hi," Nina said softly, her instincts overriding her confusion. The raw fear in those eyes pierced her. "Are you okay?" The boy shook his head violently. "They're going to hurt me," he whispered, his voice cracking. "They have needles." Nina's heart ached. She would address the room mix-up in a moment. Right now, a terrified child was before her, and that was all that mattered. "Can I come in?" she asked. He nodded, almost imperceptibly. Nina stepped inside and let the door close. She didn't approach the bed. Years of working with traumatized children had taught her that sometimes the best approach was to make herself small, less threatening. So she sat down, right there on the cold hospital floor, cross-legged, as if she had all the time in the world. "My name's Nina," she said conversationally. "I'm guessing you're not a big fan of hospitals." "I hate them." The boy's knuckles were white where he gripped his knees. "My mom, she was in a hospital. She didn't come home." "Oh God, I'm so sorry," Nina said softly. "That's really scary. Papa says I have to get the treatment or I'll get sicker. But the doctors," his voice broke, "they don't listen. They just hold me down." Nina's jaw tightened. She had seen it before, medical professionals who forgot that fear exacerbated everything, especially for children who had already endured so much loss. "What's your name?" she asked. "Luca." "Well, Luca, here's what I think." Nina rummaged in her bag and retrieved the worn copy of Where the Wild Things Are. "I think you're brave for being here, even though you're scared, and I think maybe we could make a deal." His eyes flickered with interest. "What kind of deal?" "I'll stay right here with you. I won't leave, and we'll read stories until you get sleepy. When the doctors come, you can squeeze my hand as hard as you want. If it gets too scary, you tell them to stop, and we'll figure it out together. Sound fair?" Luca studied her for a long moment. "You promise you won't leave? Promise? You promise you won't let them hurt me?" "I promise I'll make sure you're okay. The treatments aren't supposed to hurt. They're supposed to help. But if something doesn't feel right, We'll speak up together. Deal? Slowly, Luca uncurled himself. Okay. Nina smiled and opened the book. Let the wild rumpus start. Hours dissolved into a strangely peaceful bubble. Nina read until her voice grew hoarse. When Luca finally permitted the nurses to check his vitals, she held his hand and made him laugh by pulling silly faces behind their backs. When he cried during the IV insertion, she recounted the time she'd been so terrified of needles that she'd hidden under a chair at the dentist's office. Really? He asked, hiccuping. Really? And you know what? The dentist had to bribe me with 3 lollipops. Did it work? Absolutely. Never underestimate the power of sugar. Around 3 a.m., after the nurses had administered his medications and finally left them alone, Luca's eyelids began to droop. He had migrated from the bed to the floor, curling up beside Nina with his head in her lap. Nina, he mumbled, half asleep. Yeah, buddy. You're nice. Not like Papa's friends. Nina stroked his hair gently, not truly listening, merely trying to lull him to sleep. Your Papa sounds like he has interesting friends. They have guns. Nina's hand paused for a fraction of a second, but she forced herself to maintain the gentle motion. Children said strange things when they were tired. Perhaps he meant security guards. Maybe his dad was a police officer or something. Well, she whispered, no guns here, just stories and terrible hospital lighting. Luca smiled against her leg and was asleep within minutes. Nina leaned her head back against the wall, exhaustion finally claiming her. She would figure out where Tommy was in the morning. She would apologize for the room confusion. She would... Her eyes drifted closed. She never heard the door open at dawn. She never saw the 6 armed men in black suits who entered first, hands near their weapons. She never noticed the tall man in the expensive charcoal suit who stopped dead in the doorway, his cold gray eyes widening at the sight of a stranger sleeping on his floor with his son's head in her lap. All she knew was that when she woke, everything was about to change. Nina awoke to the distinct click of a gun being cocked. Her eyes flew open. 6 men in black suits surrounded the hospital room, all staring at her with expressions ranging from suspicion to barely concealed hostility. One had his hand inside his jacket. Another blocked the door, and standing in the center of them all was a man who made the very air feel heavier. He was tall, over 6 feet, with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been sculpted from marble, sharp jaw, cold gray eyes, and a charcoal suit that likely cost more than Nina earned in 6 months. Everything about him screamed power and danger. He was staring at her as if she were an enigma he couldn't quite solve. Who? He said quietly, his voice as smooth as silk and twice as dangerous. Are you? Nina's heart hammered against her ribs. She looked down. Luca was still asleep, his small body curled against her, completely peaceful. She didn't want to wake him, didn't want to scare him. I'm Nina, she whispered, trying to keep her voice steady. There was a mix-up with the rooms last night. I'm a volunteer from New Hope Shelter. I was supposed to be with another child, but I ended up here, and Luca was scared, so you stayed. The man's eyes flickered to his son, and something shifted in his expression, something almost vulnerable, before it vanished behind ice again. All night he needed someone, Nina said simply. One of the suited men stepped forward, shorter than the others, with a thick neck and a scar above his eyebrow. Boss, she could be anyone. Could be wired, could be... Rocco? The tall man's voice cut like a blade. Look at him. Everyone's eyes went to Luca. The boy was sleeping as Nina had never seen a child sleep in a hospital. Deeply, peacefully, one hand clutching the stuffed dinosaur from her bag, the other resting on her knee. His face was relaxed. The tension that had been in his small shoulders last night was completely gone. A doctor in a white coat appeared in the doorway, her eyes widening. Mr. Romano, She stopped, staring at Luca. Is he sleeping? Apparently, Mr. Romano's jaw tightened. When did you last see him sleep through the night, Dr. Chin? The doctor moved closer, her professional mask slipping into genuine astonishment. Not since he was admitted 3 weeks ago. We've tried sedatives, sleep therapy, anxiety medication. Nothing worked. He screams every time we approach him after dark until... Rocco's voice dripped with suspicion as he jerked his chin toward Nina. Dr. Chin crouched down, studying Luca's sleeping face as if it were a medical miracle. His vitals are perfect. Heart rate, breathing, everything stable. And look, he actually took his medications. She pointed to the empty IV bag. "He hasn't let us finish a full dose in days. Mr. Romano." The name tickled something in Nina's memory, but she couldn't place it. He crouched down slowly. He was still watching Nina, but his expression had shifted from cold calculation to something she couldn't read. "How did you do it?" he asked. "I didn't do anything special," Nina said honestly. "I just listened to him, read him stories, told him he was brave. He was scared because nobody was explaining things in a way he could understand. The needles, the treatments. To Luca, it was simply strangers holding him down and inflicting pain." Dr. Chin began. "We explained the medical necessity." Na gently interjected. "Did you truly explain it to them, or did you explain it to his father?" While Luca overheard frightening words he couldn't comprehend. The doctor's lips sealed. Rocco edged closer, his hand unmistakably resting on his firearm. "Boss, we need to run a full background check. This is far too convenient," he stated. "She appears out of nowhere, gets close to the kid." Nina retorted, her fear transforming into exasperation. "I'm a 26-year-old volunteer who earns $12 an hour helping underprivileged children." She was exhausted, her back aching from sleeping on the floor, and these men were scrutinizing her as if she were a criminal. "I don't know who you people are or why this room requires armed guards, but I'm not here to harm anyone. I'm here because a small boy was terrified and alone." "You have no idea who we are," Rocco scoffed, though his laugh lacked warmth. "You expect us to believe—" "Enough," Mr. Romano interjected. Raising one hand, an immediate silence fell. He regarded Nina for another prolonged moment, his gray eyes probing her countenance. Then, slowly and deliberately, he extended a hand and brushed a stray lock of hair from Luca's forehead. The gesture was so tender, so steeped in affection, that Nina's throat tightened. This, she realized, was a man who would raise the world for his son. She discerned it in the slight tremor of his hand and in the shadows beneath his eyes, betraying weeks of sleepless nights. "Miss," he began, and then paused. "Hayes. Nina Hayes." "Miss Hayes," he continued, once again towering over her. "My son has been ill for months. We've enlisted the finest doctors, the most renowned specialists, the best of everything money can procure. Yet, not a single one could get him to sleep through the night." His voice softened. "You accomplished it in hours." It wasn't a compliment. It was a factual statement that visibly disquieted him. "Sometimes children just need someone who isn't trying to fix them," Nina murmured gently. "Someone who simply sees them." Luca stirred against her leg, muttering something in his sleep. Nina instinctively placed a gentle hand on his back, soothing him without conscious thought. The boy immediately settled. Mr. Romano's gaze followed her movement. Something flickered across his face, perhaps surprise or a dawning recognition. "Rocco," he commanded, his eyes still fixed on Nina. "A full background check. I want to know everything. Where she resides, where she works, who she knows. Everything." "Already on it, boss." But Mr. Romano persisted, his eyes finally meeting Nina's again. "Do it discreetly, and do not disturb her or the boy while you proceed." Rocco's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Boss, that's an order." Silence enveloped the room, broken only by Luca's soft breathing and the steady beep of the monitors. Mr. Romano adjusted his cufflinks, a gesture that seemed more habit than necessity. "Dr. Chin, reschedule Luca's morning treatment for this afternoon. Let him sleep." He glanced at Nina. "You'll stay until he wakes." It was phrased as a question, but Nina had a distinct sense that it offered no real choice. "Of course," she responded. He nodded once, brisk and businesslike, then turned toward the door. His men fell into formation around him, like a well-drilled unit. At the threshold, he paused and looked back. "Miss Hayes," he said quietly, "thank you." Then he was gone, carrying his dangerous aura with him, leaving Nina alone with a sleeping child and the growing conviction that she had just stumbled into something far more intricate than a mere hospital room mix-up. Luca awoke 2 hours later with a smile gracing his face, a sight Dr. Chin admitted she hadn't witnessed since his admission. Nina remained while he consumed his breakfast, while the nurses checked his vitals, and while he recounted tales of his favorite video games and his dog named Brutus, who was bigger than a car. By noon, she had finally persuaded him that she needed to depart. "But you'll come back?" Luca asked, his eyes wide with apprehension. Nina's heart squeezed. She longed to promise, but she had no inkling of what was truly transpiring or if Mr. Romano would even permit her return. "I hope so, buddy. Promise." She couldn't bring herself to lie to him. "I'll try my very best." It seemed to suffice. Luca hugged her tightly before releasing her. Nina had taken precisely 15 steps down the hallway when Mr. Romano materialized from a side corridor, as if he had been awaiting her. "Miss Hayes, a moment." It was not a request. He escorted her to a private consultation room, adorned with dark wood and leather chairs, and closed the door behind them. Up close, without the retinue of armed men, he appeared even more formidable and younger than she had initially presumed, perhaps in his mid-30s, with a face suited for magazine covers, were it not for its striking coldness. "My team has completed their investigation," he announced, getting straight to the point. "You are who you claim to be. Nina Elizabeth Hayes, 26, a volunteer at New Hope Children's Shelter for 3 years, clean record. No connections to law enforcement, rival organizations, or anyone I need to be concerned about." Nina's stomach churned. "You investigated me." "Of course I did. You spent the night with my son." He uttered it as if it were the most self-evident fact in the world. "I also know you reside in a studio apartment in Parkside. You have $32,000 in student debt, and your car failed inspection last month." Heat flooded Nina's cheeks, a blend of anger and embarrassment. "That's invasive." "That's necessary." He moved to stand by the window, hands in his pockets, gazing out at the city skyline. "I want to hire you." Nina blinked. "What?" "As Luca's live-in caretaker. You would reside at my estate, manage his daily routine, assist with his medical treatments, and provide emotional support. I will pay you $200,000 a year, plus room and board, health insurance, and a security detail." The figure struck Nina like a physical blow. $200,000. That was more than she would earn in 5 years at the shelter. That was enough to settle her debts, contribute to her sister's tuition, and finally save money for the first time in her adult life. It was too much. "Mr. Romano—" "Adrien," she corrected, though his first name felt alien on her tongue. "I appreciate the offer, but I cannot. I know nothing of your world, and frankly, the guns and the background checks, and the way everyone treats you like—" She stopped herself. "Like what?" His voice was soft, laced with danger. "Like you're someone to be afraid of." Adrien turned from the window, and for the first time, a flicker of amusement touched his eyes. "I am someone to be afraid of, Miss Hayes, but I have never harmed a child, and I never will. My son needs you. That is all that matters to me. He needs therapy and consistency, not a stranger moving into his house." "You are not a stranger. You're the only person who has managed to connect with him in months." Adrien's jaw tightened. "I am offering you an opportunity to transform your life. Most people would seize it." "I'm not most people," Nina declared, heading for the door. "I'm sorry, but no." She left before he could respond, her heart pounding in her ears. The shelter was in turmoil when Nina arrived that afternoon. Children were crying in the common room, staff members clustered together in worried conversations. And Margaret, the shelter director, a woman with steely gray hair who had managed New Hope for 20 years, sat in her office, her head in her hands. "Marge," Nina knocked softly. "What's wrong?" Margaret looked up, her eyes adding. "The city cut our funding, 60%, effective next month. We have to close 2 wings and let half the staff go." Her voice faltered. "We'll have to turn away children, Nina. Children with nowhere else to go." Nina's blood ran cold. "They can't do that." "They just did." Margaret handed her an official letter, the city seal stamped at the top. "I'm sorry, honey, you're on a list. Last hired, first fired." Nina stared at the letter, the words blurring together. She needed this job, not for the money. Heaven knew she'd never done it for the money, but because these children needed advocates. They needed people who genuinely cared. 2 weeks, she whispered. Nina would be out in 14 days. She'd find a solution. She always did. Perhaps she could locate another non-profit or pick up additional shifts at the diner, or, well, look who it is. Every muscle in Nina's body tensed. Mark Sullivan stood beside her car, arms crossed, that familiar smirk on his face. He appeared just as he had a year ago. Sandy hair, a captivating smile that never reached his eyes, a polo shirt tucked into expensive jeans, as if he had just stepped off a golf course rather than emerging from her worst memories. "Hello, Nina. What do you want, Mark?" She kept her voice flat, devoid of emotion. Displaying fear only exacerbated his demeanor. "Heard you landed yourself a new gig, private caretaker for some wealthy family." He pushed off her car and moved closer. Nina forced herself not to retreat. "Thought maybe you'd want to help out your old boyfriend. You know, for old time's sake. We broke up a year ago, and you're not getting any money from me." His smile vanished. "You owe me, Nina. I paid for dinners, gifts, that weekend in Atlantic City." "You mean the weekend where you got drunk and shoved me into a wall?" Nina's hands trembled, but she met his gaze. "I don't owe you anything." Mark's face darkened. He stepped closer, near enough for her to catch the scent of his cologne. "You're working for someone with money now. Real money. I made some inquiries. Adrien Romano." He whistled softly. "You've really fallen into something, haven't you? So here's how this plays out. You're going to give me $50,000, or I'm going to make your life very difficult." "I don't have $50,000. "Then get it." He leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper that sent chills down her spine. "Because if you don't, I'll ensure everyone knows what kind of girl you truly are. Your new boss, his affluent friends, those children you care so much about. I'll ruin you, Nina, just like you ruined us." He walked away, leaving Nina standing beside her car, trembling. She remained there for 20 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, desperately trying to steady her breathing. Funding cut. Job gone. Mark back and threatening her. How could one moment turn her life upside down like this? Across the sprawling city, Adrien Romano's proposition loomed like a lifeline, yet one that Na initially recoiled from. The offer, a substantial $200,000, and a comprehensive protection security detail. Despite her reluctance, Na retrieved the business card Adriana had discreetly slipped into her bag. It bore only a phone number. She stared at it until dusk, then, with a pang of self-reproach, made the call. "I'll accept the position," she stated when he answered, "but I have conditions." "Name them," came the reply. "I'm doing this exclusively for Luca. Not for you, not for your world, solely for him." A beat of silence followed. "Understood. My driver will collect you tomorrow, at Montmartre, 9 a.m. The line went dead. Na sat in the deepening shadows, grappling with the weight of her decision. The black Mercedes that appeared precisely at 9 a.m. did not have a conventional driver. Instead, two silent armed men occupied the front seats, their faces obscured. The windows were so heavily tinted that any view of the outside world was completely blocked. Na clutched her solitary suitcase, a mounting unease settling over her as she contemplated the commitment she had just made. The journey lasted, bestas erst, 40 minutes. Gradually moving away from the urban sprawl and into a landscape of rolling hills, distinguished by estates concealed behind imposing stone walls and elaborate iron gates. Her breath hitched when they finally turned onto a private road. Adrien Romano's residence was, in fact, a formidable compound. A vast three-story mansion of stone and glass with sharp architectural lines stretched across meticulously manicured grounds. Gardens spread in every direction, revealing a fountain, a tennis court, and what appeared to be a separate guest house. Armed men in dark suits patrolled the perimeter, accompanied by dogs that were undeniably not pets. The vehicle stopped at the main entrance. A different man, not one of the drivers, opened her door and wordlessly gestured for her to follow. Inside, the opulence was overwhelming. The foyer alone dwarfed Na's entire apartment, boasting polished marble floors and a grand staircase that gracefully ascended, reminiscent of a scene from a film. Crystal chandeliers glittered, original artworks adorned the walls, and every surface was immaculate, cold, and perfect, akin to a museum where a single misplaced step could shatter the pervasive silence. And indeed, it was silent, eerily so. Staff members glided through the space like specters. a housekeeper meticulously dusting a table, another arranging flowers. Yet no one spoke, no one made eye contact. They worked with a mechanical efficiency, their faces carefully devoid of expression. Miss Hayes Rocco materialized from a side hallway, his scar catching the ambient light. He appeared even more formidable than he had at the hospital. "This way." He guided her through a labyrinth of hallways, each more imposing than the last. As they passed, Knock caught fleeting glimpses into various rooms. A library with towering bookshelves, a dining room featuring a table capable of seating 30 people, and what seemed to be a home gym equipped with machinery likely costing more than her car. "House rules," Rocco uttered without glancing back. "You do not leave the property without explicit clearance. You do not use your phone in secure areas. Someone will designate them for you. You do not ask questions about Mr. Romano's affairs. You do not speak to the press, the police, or anyone outside this estate about what you observe here. Violate any of these directives, and you are gone. Is that understood? Crystal clear?" "Crystal clear," Na replied, striving to keep any trace of resentment from her voice. Rocco paused at a door and pushed it open. "Your room." It was stunning. Large windows overlooking the meticulously maintained gardens, a queen-size bed adorned with silk sheets, and an ensuite bathroom resplendent with marble. The walk-in closet was larger than her previous bedroom. Na's single suitcase seemed pathetically small in the midst of such luxury. "Luca's room is 3 doors down on the left," Rocco continued. "Mr. Romano's private wing is off limits unless you are specifically summoned. Dinner is at 7. Someone will notify you," he added, pausing at the threshold. "We will be observing you, Miss Hayes, very closely." "I am here for Luca," Na asserted firmly. "That is all?" "We shall see," Rocco concluded, closing the door with a soft click that resonated like a veiled threat. Na sank onto the bed, her heart pounding. What had she initiated? This was not a home. It was a fortress. These individuals clearly distrusted her. They would probably conduct a thorough search of her room the moment she departed. Or perhaps it was already bugged. A gentle knock interrupted her anxious thoughts. "Na?" She opened the door to find Luca standing there in pajamas emblazoned with cartoon rockets, his dark curls disheveled, his face beaming with the widest smile she had yet witnessed. "You actually came?" He launched himself at her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Papa said you were coming, but I didn't believe it. And then Marco said he picked you up, and I've been waiting forever. And, ooh, breathe." Na laughed, hugging him back, the knot of tension in her chest easing slightly. This was precisely why she was here. "Hi, buddy. Want to see my room? I have a whole shelf of books and a TV, and Brutus sleeps on my bed, even though he's not supposed to, but Papa lets him anyway. I'd love to see it." Luca seized her hand and pulled her down the hallway. His room was precisely as she had envisioned. Enormous, filled with toys, books, and expensive items, yet undeniably lived in. Drawings adorned one wall, Lego creations cluttered the shelves, and sprawled across the bed was the largest dog Na had ever encountered, a Tibetan Mastiff that slowly raised its massive head and regarded her with intelligent brown eyes. "That's Brutus," Luca announced proudly. "He's my best friend." "Well, except you now. You're my best friend too." Na's throat tightened with emotion. "I'm honored." They spent the ensuing 2 hours in Luca's room. He showed her his cherished books, his rock collection, and the drawings he had created in the hospital. He spoke of his homeschooling teacher, his physical therapy sessions, and his profound dislike for taking pills. Slowly, Na began to relax until she felt an unseen gaze upon her. She looked up to find Adrien standing in the doorway, still in a dark suit, observing them. His expression was inscrutable, but something in his posture seemed off. A tense discomfort, as if confronted by an unexpected scene he didn't quite know how to process. "Papa!" Luca exclaimed, jumping up. "Na's here. She's going to stay forever, right?" "For now," Adrien replied cautiously, his eyes meeting Na's over his son's head. "Luca, let Miss Hayes settle in. She's had a long day." Though gently spoken, his tone immediately silenced Luca. Na suddenly felt acutely aware of her casual attire, jeans and a sweater in this perfect palace. "It's fine. I was just—" "Dinner in an hour," Adrien interjected. "Someone will escort you to the dining room." He looked at his son. Bath time. Can Nina help? Adrien hesitated, and Na witnessed a flicker of internal conflict on his face. He was unaccustomed to sharing his son, unaccustomed to another person being a part of Luca's daily routine. If Miss Hayes doesn't mind, he finally conceded. I don't mind, Na said softly. Adrien nodded once, a sharp, controlled gesture, then departed, but Na caught him lingering in the hallway, just out of sight, watching, always watching. Later that evening, after bath time and a formal dinner in a vast dining room, where she and Luca sat at one end of the enormous table, while Adrien worked through paperwork at the other, Na tucked Luca into bed. I'm glad you're here, he whispered, clutching his dinosaur. This place is scary sometimes. Na smoothed his hair back. What do you mean? Everyone's always so quiet and Papa's always working, and sometimes men come and they talk in loud voices, and then Papa gets this look on his face that makes me hide in my room. His eyes searched hers. But you're not scary, you're nice. Your Papa is not scary either, Na assured him, though she wasn't entirely convinced herself. He's just protective. Will you stay? Really stay? Na promised. She left Luca's room to find Rocco waiting in the hallway, arms crossed. Touching, he stated flatly. But don't get comfortable. We're still watching. Na met his gaze. Then watch. You'll get bored quickly. She walked past him to her room, feeling his eyes burning into her back. Behind a security monitor in his office, Adrien observed the interaction, his jaw tight. His son had never formed such a swift bond with anyone. Not the nannies, not the tutors, not even his own grandmother. This unsettled him more profoundly than he would ever admit. The true test began on day 3. Nina awoke to discover a diamond bracelet resting casually on her bathroom counter. As if someone had simply forgotten it, she stared at it for a full minute, a cold dread seeping into her. No one would forget a bracelet worth more than her annual salary at the shelter. She carefully picked it up and immediately went to the head housekeeper, a stern woman named Rosa. I found this in my bathroom, Na stated, extending the bracelet. Someone must have lost it. Rosa's expression remained impassive, but a flicker registered in her eyes. I will return it to Mrs. Chen, she said, taking the bracelet. Thank you, Miss Hayes. Na thought nothing more of it until the following day, when an envelope stuffed with 100 bills appeared in the pocket of a coat she had left hanging in the mudroom, and estimated at 5,000 easily. She brought it directly to Rocco. This isn't mine, she declared, placing it on his desk in the security office. Rocco leaned back in his chair, scrutinizing her. It could be a bonus. Mr. Romano is generous with staff who perform well. If it were a bonus, it would come in a paycheck with proper documentation. This is someone else's money. Na met his gaze steadily. I don't take what isn't mine. He stared at her for a prolonged moment, then took the envelope without a word. The incidents continued. A designer purse left in a hallway. An expensive watch on the kitchen counter. Each time, Na promptly returned the items, completely immune to their allure. She had grown up with nothing, understanding the stark distinction between what was earned and what was stolen. What she did not realize was that every single item was a test. The questioning began during her second week. Miss Hayes Rocco appeared while she was reading to Luca in the garden. A moment. Na glanced at Luca, who was engrossed in his book. I'm in the middle of... She sighed and followed him to a side patio, irritation prickling at her neck. What? Your ex-boyfriend, Mark Sullivan. Rocco pulled out a tablet, displaying surveillance photos. Mark lingered outside her former dwelling, then at a bar, engaging in conversation with someone, and later at a pawn shop. He'd been discreetly probing for information. Who do you meet on Tuesdays? The question was sharp. No one. Tuesdays are my day off, and I visit the town library. Na crossed her arms, a clear defensive stance. And before you ask, I go alone. I read, and then I return. That's all. Don't you find it suspicious that your ex appears just as you begin working for Mr. Romano? The interrogator pressed. I find it utterly terrifying, actually, Na retorted, her voice hardening. Mark is abusive and obsessive. That's precisely why I ended things. If you're suggesting I'm collaborating with him, you're wasting your time. I want absolutely nothing to do with that man. Rocco observed her intently. He could be a liability. Then handle it in your usual manner, but exclude me completely. Na turned to leave, then paused. "And for the record, if I intended to spy on your boss or harm Luca, I would be far more discreet. I wouldn't rely on an obvious connection like an ex-boyfriend asking questions. I'm not foolish." She left him standing there and rejoined Luca, her hands trembling with lingering anger. What she missed was Rocco's subtle nod of approval. The surveillance was relentless. Na knew she was being watched. She'd catch glimpses of men in hallways, discover her rooms subtly rearranged, and notice cameras in every corner. They monitored her phone calls, all 3 of them to her sister, and likely read her texts. They knew she ordered the same turkey sandwich every Tuesday at the library cafe. They knew she donated half her first paycheck to the New Hope shelter. They knew everything. Yet, Na simply continued being herself. She woke early to assist Luca with breakfast, read him stories, played board games, and attended his physical therapy sessions, cheering him on. She learned his favorite foods, his deepest fears, and the precise way he preferred his pillows arranged. She never inquired about Adrien's affairs, never snooped in off-limits rooms, and never attempted to leverage her position. She was, quite simply, kind. One evening, as Na helped Luca with his homework, one of Adrien's men, a younger individual named Marco, lingered in the doorway. "Need something?" she inquired pleasantly. Marco shifted awkwardly. "Boss wants to know if you require anything. Better furniture, a different room, whatever." "I'm fine, thank you." "Are you sure? Most people ask for things. A new TV, a better car, shopping trips." Na looked up from Luca's math worksheet. "I have everything I need, but if you're offering, the children at the New Hope shelter could use winter coats. There's a charity drive next month." Marco blinked. "You want donations for other children?" "If Mr. Romano is feeling generous," Na smiled. "Otherwise, I'm content." Marco left, shaking his head, and Na returned to guiding Luca through carrying the 2 in his addition problem. In the security office, Rocco, Marco, and 2 other men intently watched the monitors. "She's clean," Marco declared, leaning back. 3 weeks, boss, and she hasn't taken anything, hasn't asked for anything, hasn't tried to access restricted areas. She barely uses her phone, except to call her sister about college textbooks. "Could be a long game," another man, Tony, muttered. "Gain trust, then strike." "With what?" Rocco countered. "She asks no questions. When the Valentini crew arrived for the meeting last week, she kept Luca upstairs and gave him headphones so he wouldn't hear. She didn't try to eavesdrop, didn't attempt to see who was here. She simply protected the child." "Perhaps that's the strategy," Tony persisted. "Get close to the kid. Use him as leverage later." Marco snorted. "Do you see how she looks at Luca? That's not feigned. My sister is a teacher. I recognize genuine care. This woman would throw herself in front of a bus for that child." "Everyone has a price," Tony insisted. "Indeed." Rocco brought up a file on his screen. "She refused a $50,000 bonus I left in her room last week. Said if Mr. Romano wished to give her extra money, it should be processed through proper payroll, with taxes. Who on earth voluntarily pays more taxes?" The men fell silent. On the monitor, Na was laughing at something Luca said, ruffling his hair. The boy beamed up at her with pure adoration. "Boss isn't going to like this," Marco said quietly. "Like what?" Tony asked. "That she's exactly who she claims to be. No hidden agenda, no cunning scheme. Just a genuinely good person who truly cares." Marco shook his head. "He doesn't trust good people. He doesn't believe they exist." Rocco reflected on the past 3 weeks. Every test they had thrown at Na, she had passed without even realizing she was being tested. The planted items, the probing questions, the constant surveillance, she had remained steadfastly the same, honest, kind, and solely focused on Luca. This made her either the most perilous individual they had ever encountered or the safest. "I'll inform Mr. Romano," Rocco finally stated. "She's clear." "Are you sure?" Rocco watched Na patiently and encouragingly help Luca sound out a difficult word. He thought of his own daughter, of the kind of person he would want watching her if something unforeseen happened to him. "Yes," he affirmed, "I'm sure." That evening, Rocco presented his report to Adrien in his private study. "She's clean, boss. No criminal connections, no suspicious activity, no attempts to gain information or leverage. She's been extensively tested. She passes every time." Adrien stood by the window, a glass of whiskey in his hand, gazing out at the grounds. "You're certain?" As certain as I can be, she's not playing a game. She's just... Rocco hesitated. She's just taking care of your son. Adrienne's reflection in the dark glass was inscrutable. People always want something. Not her. We offered her cash, gifts, privileges. She declines it all. The only thing she ever requested was donations for some children's shelter. Rocco paused. She's the real deal, boss. Adrien took a long drink. He had personally observed every test on the monitors, watched Na return every planted item without hesitation, watched her handle their interrogations with honest frustration instead of calculated responses, watched her care for Luca as if he were her own. It unsettled him more than any threat. "Keep watching," Adrien said quietly. "But ease off, no more tests." "Boss, she's proven herself. Now let her do her job." Rocco nodded and departed. Alone, Adrien watched the security monitor displaying Luca's room, where Na was reading a bedtime story, his son curled against her side, safe and content. For the first time in years, someone in his house wasn't afraid of him, wasn't attempting to manipulate him, wasn't playing an angle, and Adrien had absolutely no idea how to process that. Na's mistake was returning to her old neighborhood by herself. She had requested the afternoon off to assist her sister in moving boxes into college storage. Adrien had agreed with a curt nod, and Marco had offered to drive her, but Na had insisted on taking the car service herself. She craved a few hours away from the estate, away from the vigilant eyes and ceaseless surveillance. She should have known better. Na was loading the final box into her sister's dorm when she felt it, that familiar prickling sensation of being watched. She turned to find Mark leaning against a car across the street, arms crossed, that recognizable smirk on his face. "Fancy seeing you here," he called out. Na's blood ran cold. "Emma, go inside." "Who's that?" her younger sister asked, frowning. "Nobody. Please, just go." Emma, bless her, recognized the fear in Na's voice and disappeared into the dorm without argument. Mark crossed the street, moving with the casual confidence he had always possessed, the kind that stemmed from never facing real consequences. Nice car service, black Mercedes, tinted windows, driver with a gun. He whistled softly. "You've really landed yourself a big fish, haven't you?" "Go away, Mark. I looked into your new boss, Adrien Romano." Mark's eyes gleamed. "Do you have any idea who that is? The Romano family practically controls the city. Drugs, gambling, construction. They have their fingers in everything." He moved closer. "So either you're the world's most naive nanny or you're sleeping with a mafia boss." "I'm taking care of his son, that's all." "Right, his son." Mark laughed. "Come on now. A man like that doesn't pay 6 figures for a babysitter unless he's getting something extra. You were always so good at playing innocent while—" Na's voice quivered with rage. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to show up and make assumptions about my life." "I'm not assuming anything. I'm stating facts." Mark pulled out his phone, showing her photos, pictures of her entering the estate, of her in the garden with Luca, of her getting into the Mercedes. "I've been watching and I've been thinking. A man like Romano, with all that money, all that power, he won't want any loose ends, like an ex-boyfriend who knows things." Na's stomach plummeted. "What do you want?" "The same thing I wanted before. 50,000, but now I think it should be 100. Call it hazard pay for keeping my mouth shut about your little arrangement." His voice dropped. "Pay me or I start talking to people. The press, his competitors, maybe the FBI. I'm sure they'd love to know about the mysterious woman living with Adrien Romano and his son. There's nothing to tell. I'm a caretaker." "Then, you won't mind if I make some calls?" Mark stepped back, still smiling. "You have 1 week, Na. After that, things get messy." He walked away, leaving Na trembling in the middle of the sidewalk. She didn't tell anyone at first, but the next Tuesday when she went to the library, Mark was there, watching from across the street. Wednesday, he was at the coffee shop near the estate gates. Thursday, Na found a note under her windshield wiper. 6 days left. Friday, she broke. "There's a problem," she told Rocco, finding him in the security office. Her voice was steadier than she felt. "My ex-boyfriend, he's following me. He wants money, and he's threatening to go to the press about me working here." Rocco's expression darkened. "When did this start?" Na explained everything, the college encounter, the stalking, the threats. With each word, Rocco's jaw tightened. "This is Mark Sullivan," he enunciated slowly, bringing up an already comprehensive file. "He's been on our radar since your arrival, and we've been monitoring him. It's standard protocol. Anyone linked to household staff is tracked." Rocco leaned back comfortably. He has a record. 2 domestic violence claims, both dropped, a bar brawl last year, and accumulated gambling debts. His gaze met hers. "Let me handle this." The way he uttered "handle" sent a shiver down Na's spine. She had been here long enough to grasp the implicit meaning in this world. "No," she quickly interjected. "Please, I don't want anyone harmed. He's threatening you, threatening this family. He's desperate and foolish, but he doesn't deserve—" Na trailed off, unable to complete her thought. "Let me talk to him. Let me try to reason with him first." "Reasoning doesn't work with men like that," Rocco stated firmly. "Then let me fail at reasoning before you intervene. Whatever it is you're planning to do," Na's voice cracked. "Please, Rocco, I understand the nature of this world. I know how problems are typically resolved, but I'm pleading with you. Allow me to attempt it my way first." Rocco observed her for a long moment, then exhaled deeply. "I need to inform the boss." Adrien listened to Rocco's report in utter silence, his visage etched in stone. They were in his office, Na standing awkwardly near the door as Rocco detailed the threat. With each revelation, the room's temperature seemed to steadily drop. "He's been stalking her for 2 weeks, Rocco concluded, following her, taking photographs. He demands $100,000 or he goes public. Then we eliminate the problem." Adrien's voice was eerily calm. "Matter-of-factly, permanently." "No!" Na stepped forward emphatically. "Please, Mr. Romano, I know Mark. He's all bluster. If I can just explain that there's nothing improper happening here, that I'm simply a caretaker, he'll retract." "Men who issue threats do not retract. They escalate." Adrien's gray eyes fixed on hers. "This is how matters are dealt with in my world, Miss Hayes. But it doesn't have to be." Nae's hands clenched at her sides. "I'm not asking you to disregard it. I'm merely requesting an opportunity to manage it without violence. Allow me to meet with him with your security present. Let me try, and if dialogue proves ineffective, then I will accept whatever you deem necessary. But please, let me try first." Na's voice softened. "You hired me precisely because I am different from your world. Let me embody that difference." The silence stretched between them, thick and heavy. Adrien's fingers drummed once on his desk, the sole indication of an internal conflict. "Boss, we cannot risk—" Rocco began. "Arrange a meeting," Adrien interrupted him, his gaze still fixed on Na. "A controlled location with a full security contingent. She gets 10 minutes to present her case. After that, we proceed my way." Na exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." Adrien rose, moving around his desk with a predatory grace. He stopped close enough that Na had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "If he touches you, if he threatens you, if he so much as raises his voice, my men have orders to end this. Understood?" "Understood. And Miss Hayes?" A subtle flicker crossed his expression. "After this is resolved, you do not leave the estate without security. No more solitary trips, no more alone time at the library. You are now part of this household. That signifies you are under my protection, whether you like it or not." It should have felt like a confinement, like a loss of control. But the way he said it, with an almost protective undertone beneath the command, made Na's breath catch. "Okay," she whispered. Adrien nodded and turned to Rocco. "Set it up. Public venue, multiple exits, full team coverage, and Rocco." His voice turned icy. "If Sullivan makes any move towards her, you have my express permission to handle it immediately." "Yes, boss." As Na departed the office, she heard Adrien's voice once more. "And Rocco, I want surveillance on Sullivan doubled. If he so much as looks at her wrongly before this meeting, I want to know." For the first time since Mark's reappearance, Na experienced something other than fear. She felt a profound sense of protection. The meeting with Mark never materialized. 3 days before the scheduled confrontation, Mark Sullivan was apprehended on outstanding warrants in Atlantic City, related to unpaid gambling debts and assault charges. Rocco delivered the news with an impeccably neutral expression, but Na was not naive. She understood that Adrien had made a phone call, had pulled strings. She should have been incensed by the manipulation. Instead, she felt only immense relief. However, while one problem vanished, another was burgeoning in ways Na was yet to fully comprehend. "Na is my favorite person in the whole world," Luca announced at breakfast, his declaration loud enough for the entire household staff to hear. "Even more than Papa." Adrien looked up from his coffee, one eyebrow subtly raised. "Is that so?" "Yep." Luca grinned, utterly oblivious to the subtle shift in the room's energy. "Papa, you're scary sometimes, but Na's never scary. She's just nice." The housekeeper momentarily paused her juice pouring. Marco, standing by the door, coughed to mask what might have been a chuckle, and Adrien's expression, for a fleeting moment, betrayed something Na couldn't quite decipher, perhaps hurt or resignation. "Luca," Na said gently, "your father loves you very much." "I know, but I still like you more right now," Luca retorted, returning his attention to his pancakes, the proclamation already forgotten. But others would not forget so easily. Across the sprawling city, in a villa that rivaled Adrien's estate in opulence but doubled it in ostentation, Sergio Valentini smiled as he listened to his informant's report. The kid said, "What?" Sergio leaned back in his leather chair, gold rings glinting as he lit a cigar. "That the girl's his favorite, more than Romano." The informant, one of Adrien's household staff who had been on Sergio's payroll for months, shifted nervously. The entire staff heard it. "The kid's obsessed with her. And Romano," he continued, "he lets her get away with everything. No background in our world, no family connections, and she's living in the main house, has access to the kid, to Romano." Sergio exhaled smoke, his mind already churning. "How long has she been there?" "Almost a month now. And Romano hired her himself. Personally, even. Yes, after she spent the night with his kid at the hospital. Some story about her being a volunteer who calmed the boy down when no one else could." "Interesting." Sergio tapped ash into a crystal tray. "The great Adrien Romano brought to his knees by a pretty caretaker and his sick son. Almost poetic. What do you want me to do?" "Nothing yet. Just keep watching and start talking." Sergio's smile widened. "Let it slip to the other families that Romano's distracted, that he's going soft. A man who prioritizes a woman and child over business is a man who is vulnerable." The informant nodded and departed. Sergio made 3 phone calls that afternoon. By evening, whispers had begun circulating through the city's clandestine networks. Adrien Romano was losing his edge, too consumed by his son, too trusting of a stranger, too preoccupied to perceive challenges to his authority. He turned down the Castellano deal. Sergio informed Vincent Moretti, head of the Northside operations, over dinner. Said he was too busy with family matters. Adrien Romano refusing a multi-million-dollar opportunity because of family matters. Vincent frowned thoughtfully. "That doesn't sound like him." "It's not. He's changing, softening." Sergio leaned forward conspiratorially. "Word is there's a woman living in his house, close to his son. He's so focused on keeping the kid happy, he's losing sight of business." "Are you certain about this?" "I have people inside his operation. Trust me, the man is vulnerable right now, and vulnerability is opportunity." By week's end, 3 of Adrien's smaller allies had quietly initiated negotiations with Sergio's organization. The whispers were yielding results. Adrien's consigliere, a silver-haired man named Vincent Caruso, who had served the Romano family for 30 years, waited until they were alone to speak. "We need to discuss the girl." Adrien didn't look up from the contract he was reviewing. "Nina is not a problem. She's becoming one." Vincent closed the door to Adrien's study, his expression grave. "Sergio is spreading rumors, says you're distracted, that you're prioritizing personal feelings over business. 3 of our associates have started taking meetings with him." "Let them. Anyone who would switch allegiances over rumors isn't worth keeping." Adrien's voice hardened. "This is serious. Luca telling the entire household that he prefers her to you. Staff members gossiping about how you've changed since she arrived, how you came home early last week just to have dinner with them. People are noticing." "Noticing what?" Adrien finally looked up, his voice dangerously quiet. "That you spend time with my son. Noticing that you care. In this world, caring is weakness. Feelings are weapons that can be used against you." Vincent moved closer. "I know you've been alone since Maria died. I know Luca needed someone, But this girl, she's making you soft, making you vulnerable. She's making my son happy. And what happens when Sergio exploits that happiness against you? When he threatens her to get to you? When someone decides the fastest way to wound Adrien Romano is through the woman his son loves? Vincent's voice dropped. Feelings are dangerous, Adrien. You taught me that. Your father taught you that the moment you care about something, you present your enemies with a target. Adrien rose slowly, his full height and presence filling the room. Are you suggesting I fire her? I'm suggesting you remember who you are, what you are. Vincent met his gaze steadily. You're the head of the Romano family. You cannot afford weakness. Na is not a weakness. Then what is she? The question hung in the air. Adrien had no immediate answer, or, rather, he had several, none of which he was ready to examine too closely. She stays? Adrien finally stated. And if Sergio chooses to interpret that as weakness, let him. He'll learn otherwise. Vincent sighed. I hope you're right, because if you're wrong, it won't just be you who pays the price. It'll be her and Luca. He departed, leaving Adrien in his study, Vincent's words resonating in his mind. Feelings are dangerous. This principle had been the bedrock of his entire existence. After Maria's death, he had deliberately suppressed all softness, channeling his energies solely into acquiring power, maintaining control, and safeguarding Luca. Emotions, he believed, led to destruction and vulnerability. Yet, a seismic shift occurred with Na's arrival. Suddenly his son was laughing again, sleeping soundly through the night, eating without coaxing, and smiling. Adrien found himself leaving work earlier than customary, not for security monitoring, but to discreetly observe Na reading to Luca in the garden. He even found himself considering her opinions when making decisions about his son. Feelings are dangerous, Vincent had asserted, and Adrien knew it was true. Nevertheless, he found himself utterly incapable of acting on that truth. Across the city, Sergio concluded his evening with a direct call to his most trusted captain. I want comprehensive surveillance on Romano's girl, he commanded. Every movement she makes, every person she interacts with, find me something I can exploit. What's your strategy, boss? The captain inquired. Sergio's lips curved into a smile. Adrien Romano believes he can possess both power and a family. I intend to demonstrate that, in our realm, one is forced to choose. And when he's compelled to make that choice, everyone will witness the extent of his weakness. He hung up, pouring himself a drink, already savoring the imagined sight of Adrien's face as everything crumbled. The game, he mused, had only just begun. The call materialized at 4 a.m. on a Thursday. Na was abruptly jolted awake by persistent knocking at her door. Disoriented, she stumbled out of bed to find Adrien in the hallway, still impeccably dressed in the suit from his late-night meeting. His hair was disheveled, his tie askew, and his expression, he looked utterly terrified. "It's Luca!" he rasped, his voice strained. "His fever spiked. We need to get him to the hospital, now." Within 2 minutes, Na was dressed and by Luca's side. The small boy lay in bed, his face flushed, his breathing shallow. Seeing her, tears welled in his eyes. "I don't want to go," he whimpered. "Please, Nana, no more needles." "I know, sweetheart." Na sat on the edge of his bed, gently pushing back his damp curls. "But we need to ensure you're okay. You'll come. I'm not leaving your side." St. Catherine's Hospital at 5 a.m. was eerily quiet, yet the VIP wing erupted into a controlled frenzy the moment they arrived. Dr. An Chin, her expression somber, met them at the door. "His blood work indicates an infection. We need an emergency procedure to drain it before it spreads." She looked at Adrien. "We need to prep him immediately." "No!" Luca's scream reverberated through the hallway. He clung to Na, his small body trembling. "No more! I don't want to!" When 2 nurses approached with a gurney, Luca's panic intensified. He buried his face in Na's shoulder, sobbing. "Please don't let them take me. Please!" Na's heart ached. She looked at Dr. Chin. "Can you give us a minute? We really need to—" "5 minutes," Adrien interjected quietly, his voice leaving no room for dissent. The medical staff retreated. Adrien stood rigidly in the doorway, his hands clenched at his sides, his face a mask barely concealing his profound anguish. Na carried Luca to a chair in the corner and sat down, pulling him into her lap, despite his being too large now. He clung to her as if she were his sole lifeline. "Luca, look at me." She gently tilted his chin up. "Remember the first night we met in this hospital?" He nodded, hiccuping. "You were so scared, and I sat on the floor with you, and we read stories, and we got through it together. Remember? You promised you wouldn't leave, and I didn't leave. I stayed all night." Na wiped his tears with her thumbs. "I'm making the same promise now. I won't leave. I'll be right there the whole time." "They'll hold me down!" Luca cried. "No, they won't, because you're going to be brave and let them help you, and I'll be holding your hand the entire time. And if you get scared, you squeeze as hard as you need to." Na looked into his eyes. "Can you do that? Can you be brave with me?" Luca's lower lip quivered. "What if it hurts?" "Then we'll tell them, and they'll help. Dr. Chin is really good at her job. She doesn't want you to hurt. She wants you to get better so we can go home and finish building that Lego spaceship. The big one. The really, really big one." Na smiled. "But first, we need to take care of you. Deal?" Luca buried his face in her neck for a long moment, then whispered, "Okay." The prep room was sterile and gleaming. Nurses moved with practiced efficiency, setting up equipment, preparing medications. Luca sat rigidly on the examination table, consumed by fear. Yet, he didn't scream, didn't struggle. Na sat on the floor beside him, just as she had that first night, holding his hand. "Tell me about the spaceship," she said calmly, as a nurse swabbed his arm for the IV. "What color are we making the engines?" "Red." Luca's voice trembled, but he focused on her. "With yellow flames." "That sounds awesome. What else?" They discussed Legos and dinosaurs, and whether Brutus, his dog, would fit in the spaceship. Probably not. When the IV was inserted, Luca squeezed Na's hand so fiercely her fingers went numb, but he didn't pull away, didn't scream. "You're doing so good," Na murmured. So good." Dr. Chin worked swiftly, explaining each step in language Luca could comprehend. When something stung, she acknowledged it. When Luca whimpered, she paused and allowed him to compose himself. And through it all, Nena remained on that floor, her voice unwavering, her presence a steadfast anchor. Adrien watched through the observation window, unable to tear his gaze away. Rocco stood beside him, silently. Both men had experienced combat, had witnessed horrors that would shatter most individuals. Yet, seeing his 6-year-old son fight through his terror, empowered by a woman he'd known for barely a month, tightened Adrien's throat. "She's something else," Rocco commented quietly. Adrien couldn't speak. He watched Na, her jeans soiled from the hospital floor, her hair escaping its ponytail. Exhaustion etched into every line of her body. Yet she was smiling at his son as if he had just conquered the entire world. "You're the bravest kid I know," Nena was saying. "The absolute bravest." Luca managed a faint smile. "Really?" The procedure concluded. Dr. Chin gave instructions to the nurses, then joined Adrien in the observation room. "I've been a pediatric specialist for 15 years, she stated, watching Nena help Luca drink some water. "I've never seen a child that traumatized cooperate so completely. What she did in there—" Dr. Chin shook her head. "That's not training. That's a gift." "Yes," Adrien said softly. "It is." 2 hours later, after Luca had been settled in a recovery room and had finally drifted into sleep, Adrien found Nena in the hallway. She was leaning against the wall, eyes closed, looking utterly depleted. "Miss Hayes?" She opened her eyes. "Is Luca still sleeping?" "He's fine." Adrien moved closer, studying her face. In the harsh fluorescent lighting, he could discern the dark circles beneath her eyes, the worry lines around her mouth. "You should rest." "I'm okay." "You spent 3 hours on a hospital floor." "It's where I needed to be." Na straightened, meeting his gaze. He needed to know someone was there, someone who wouldn't leave. Adrien remained silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was rougher than usual. "The experts, the child psychologists, the therapists, the specialists I've paid thousands of dollars to. None of them could do what you did in there. They all said it would take months of conditioning, of gradual exposure, of—" He stopped. "You did it in minutes." Na shifted uncomfortably. "I just talked to him." "No." Adrien stepped closer, and Na suddenly realized his towering height, the sheer presence he commanded even in this sterile hospital corridor. You made him feel safe in his worst moment, when he was more terrified than I've ever seen him. You made him feel safe. Do you understand how rare that is? Na's breath caught at the raw, unguarded emotion in his voice, a tone she had never heard from him before. He's a special kid, she said softly. And you're... Adrien stopped himself, his jaw tightening as if he had almost uttered something he couldn't retract. You're exactly what he needs. Their eyes held. Something shifted in the space between them, an understanding, a recognition, a nascent trust that had not existed moments before. Thank you, Adrien said at last. For being here for him, Nana replied, and she truly meant it. Adrien nodded once, then turned and walked back toward Luca's room, his shoulders carrying a weight that seemed somehow lighter than before. Nana watched him go, her heart performing a complex dance in her chest that she was absolutely unprepared to analyze. Behind them, Rocco, having witnessed the entire exchange, pulled out his phone and sent a single text to Vincent, Adrien's consigliere. Boss is in deeper than we thought. It's not just the kid anymore. Mark made bail after 4 days. Na remained unaware of this until it was too late. She had convinced Adrien to allow her one last visit to the New Hope shelter. One of the wings was closing due to funding cuts, and she yearned to say goodbye to the children. Rocco had assigned 2 security guards to accompany her, but Na had asked them to wait in the car. The children were already distressed enough about losing their home. They didn't need men with guns hovering. This was her first mistake. Her second was lingering after sunset. Na emerged from the shelter into the parking lot at 7:30 p.m., her arms laden with drawings the children had made for Luca. The streetlight above her car flickered once, then died completely, plunging that section of the lot into deep shadow. Her instincts screamed danger. She turned back toward the shelter entrance, but Mark emerged from behind a van, blocking her path. He was not alone. 2 large, rough-looking men she didn't recognize flanked him. "Hello, Nana." Her blood ran cold. "Mark, you're supposed to be in jail." He smiled, but his eyes were wild, desperate. Charges dropped. It's a curious truth about evidence, isn't it? It has a way of vanishing when the right palms are greased. That small escapade, however, cost me everything. My apartment, my employment, my standing, all gone. He closed in. All because you just had to run crying to your mob boss boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend, and I didn't. Shut up, Mark's voice cracked. Do you truly believe I'm an idiot? Do you seriously think I don't realize Romano orchestrated my arrest, that he conjured those charges out of thin air? He was trembling now, beads of sweat on his forehead, despite the cool evening air. I owe dangerous people money, Nana, and the only way out of this is a hefty payout. Nana's heart thumped a frantic rhythm. Where were the guards? Mark, please. Romano will pay a fortune to get you back. 1 million, perhaps more. The man is clearly obsessed with you. Mark gestured to his companions. Grab her! Nana shrieked. She flung the drawings at them and bolted, but she managed only 3 steps before rough hands seized her arms. She kicked, flailed, and screamed louder. Gunshots ripped through the night, not aimed at her, but toward the sky, warning shots. Let her go now! Rocco's voice was deathly cold. He stood 20 feet away with 4 other men, all weapons drawn. They had materialized from nowhere, moving like specters. The security guards she believed were waiting in the car had clearly been much closer. Mark's companions released Nana instantly, hands raised. But Mark, foolish, desperate Mark, pulled out a knife and wrapped an arm around Nana's waist, pressing the blade to her throat. Back off, or I cut her. His hand trembled, causing the knife to dig into her skin. Nana felt a warm trickle of blood. Last warning, Rocco said. Let her go. I want a car and $100,000 or she... He never finished the sentence. One of Adriene's men, Tony, fired. Not a lethal shot, but precise. The bullet struck Mark's shoulder, and he dropped the knife with a scream. Nana stumbled forward as he fell, and suddenly Rocco was there, pulling her away, positioning himself between her and Mark. The other 2 men were already face down on the pavement, hands zip-tied behind their backs. Mark writhed on the ground, clutching his bleeding shoulder. You shot me! You psycho shot me! You put a knife to her throat. Rocco's voice was eerily calm. Consider yourself fortunate that's all we did. He spoke into his radio. We need a cleanup at the shelter, 3 suspects, 1 with a gunshot wound, and get the boss on the line, now. Nena couldn't stop shaking. Her legs gave out, and Rocco caught her, gently easing her to sit on the parking lot curb. You're okay, he said, surprisingly gently. You're safe. But Nena didn't feel safe. She felt the phantom pressure of the knife, the terror of Mark's hands on her, the horrifying certainty that she had been moments away from dying in a parking lot outside a children's shelter. Sirens wailed in the distance. Police, likely those on Adrien's payroll, would arrive and make this all disappear. Mark would face real charges this time. Attempted kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, but all Nena could think about was how perilously close it had been. How, if Rocco had been 5 seconds slower? She started crying and couldn't stop. Adrien arrived in 15 minutes, which meant he had shattered every speed limit in the city. He was out of his car before it fully stopped, striding across the parking lot with murder in his eyes. For a moment, Nena thought he was angry with her for insisting on coming, for dismissing the guards, for being so foolishly naive. But he crouched in front of her, his hands gentle as he tilted her chin up to examine the cut on her neck. How bad? His voice was lethally quiet. Superficial, Rocco reported. Barely broke the skin, but he had the knife to her throat for approximately 45 seconds before Tony took the shot. Adrien's jaw clenched so tightly Nena heard his teeth grind. His eyes, God, his eyes blazed with a fury she had never witnessed, not even when Sergio's men had appeared at the estate last week making threats. Where is he? The ambulance took him. He'll be under guard at the hospital, then straight to holding. I want him charged with everything possible. Attempted kidnapping, assault, extortion. I don't care what it costs. I want him buried so deep he never sees daylight again. Already in motion, boss. Adrien's attention returned to Nena. He touched her neck so carefully, his thumb brushing just below the cut. Did he hurt you anywhere else? Nena shook her head, not trusting her voice. Can you stand? She tried. Her legs shook but held. Adrien stood with her, his hand steady on her elbow. You're going home. I can drive myself. You're in shock. Rocco will drive your car back. You're riding with me. It was not a request. He guided her toward his car, his hand never leaving her back. Protective, possessive. The ride to the estate was silent. Nena stared out the window, her mind replaying the attack over and over. Adrien made 3 phone calls, all clipped, angry conversations about security failures and consequences. When they arrived, he didn't take her to her usual room. He led her to the main house's 2nd floor, to a hallway she had never been permitted in before, the secure wing, his wing. You're staying here? He said, opening a door to a bedroom that was somehow both luxurious and fortress-like. Reinforced windows, a panic button by the bed, a door that looked like it could withstand a siege. Guest suite in the family wing. My room is next door. Lucas is down the hall. Adrien, I don't need... Yes, you do. He turned to face her, and the raw emotion in his expression stole her breath. This happened because I underestimated the threat, because I didn't tighten security enough, because I... His voice broke. You had a knife to your throat because I failed to protect you. This isn't your fault. You're under my roof, under my protection. That makes you my responsibility. Adrien stepped closer, his voice dropping. And I don't fail twice. You stay in this wing where I can ensure your safety. You don't leave the estate without a full security team, and you never, ever dismiss the guards again. Understood? Nena should have felt trapped, should have resented the control, the restrictions. Instead, she felt something else entirely. Okay, she whispered. Adrien's shoulders dropped slightly, tension releasing. He reached up and carefully brushed a strand of hair from her face, his fingers lingering. Get some rest. I'll have Rosa bring you something to eat. He left before Nena could respond, closing the door softly behind him. Nena sank onto the bed, her fingers touching the small bandage on her neck, her heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. Everything had just changed, and they both knew it. The charity gala was meant to be routine, an annual event where the city's elite feigned concern for children's hospitals while striking business deals over champagne. Adrien attended every year, wrote a massive check, and departed early. This year, he'd asked Nena to accompany him. It's for St. Catherine's pediatric wing, he'd said that morning. Luca wants you there. They're honoring Dr. Chin. Naina had reluctantly agreed, although being paraded around in a borrowed designer dress in front of people who terrified her wasn't her idea of a good time. Still, for Luca, who had begged her to go, she would do it. She should have known it was a trap. The event was held at the Grandview Hotel, all glittering chandeliers and orchestral music. Naina stayed close to Adrien, acutely aware of the stares. Women in jewels that cost more than cars whispered behind their hands. Men in expensive suits assessed her with calculating eyes. "They're wondering who you are," Adrien murmured, his hand resting lightly on her lower back as they moved through the crowd. Let them wonder. But the whispers weren't just curiosity. Halfway through the evening, Naina overheard a conversation near the bar. Heard she's a federal plant. Showed up out of nowhere. Got close to Romano through the kid. Classic FBI playbook. Use the children. Gain trust. Naina's blood ran cold. She glanced at Adrien, but he was deep in conversation with a hospital board member, oblivious. By the time dinner was served, the rumors had spread like wildfire. Naina excused herself to the restroom and pulled out her phone. 3 news alerts waiting. Mystery woman in Romano household. Federal informant. Anonymous source claims Romano's new employee has FBI ties. Is Adrien Romano being investigated through his son? Her hands shook as she opened the articles. They were all the same. Vague insinuations, anonymous sources, claims that Naina Hayes had appeared suddenly in Adriene's life, gained unprecedented access to his family, and had suspicious gaps in her background that raised questions. It was all lies, twisted truths and fabrications designed to appear credible, and it was working. When Naina returned to the table, the atmosphere had shifted. Adriene's associates, men she had seen at the estate, men who had politely nodded at her before, now watched her with open hostility. Vincent, Adrien's consigliere, leaned close to Adrien and whispered something urgent. Adrien's expression darkened as he pulled out his phone, reading quickly. His eyes found Naina across the table. For a moment, something flickered in his face. Concern, perhaps, or a calculation. Then, Sergio Valentini appeared at their table, like a shark sensing blood. "Adrien, good to see you." Sergio's smile was all teeth. "And this must be the famous Miss Hayes. The whole room's been talking about you." "Sergio," Adriene's voice was ice. "We're in the middle of dinner." Of course. I just wanted to say, such dedication, working with children, very admirable." Sergio's eyes gleamed with malice. "Though I have to wonder in these times, how thoroughly one vets their household staff. You can never be too careful, can you? Especially with family involved." The implication was clear. Adrien stood slowly, his full height and presence causing Sergio to step back. "If you have something to convey, express it with clarity. No personal offense intended," Sergio emphasized, hands casually raised. "Merely a friendly warning. We all strive to safeguard our assets." He gestured toward Na. "Enjoy your evening, Miss Hayes." With that, he departed, leaving a lingering bitterness in his wake. The journey homeward unfolded in silence. Na remained in the car's rear, observing the urban glow blur past, her stomach churning with unease. Adrien had exited the gala, precipitously following Sergio's appearance, his countenance a mask of sternness. Upon returning to the estate, she discovered Vincent, Rocco, and 3 additional senior members of Adriene's organization awaiting in his study. "You must eliminate her," Vincent declared without preamble. "Tonight." Na stood, frozen, in the doorway. Adrien sat at his desk, his expression inscrutable. "Elaborate." "Sergio intentionally leaked this narrative. He aims to destabilize your alliances by portraying you as compromised." Vincent set a tablet on the desk, displaying multiple news articles. "Already, the Castellano family has postponed next week's meeting. The Moretts are re-evaluating their partnership. Even your own associates are questioning things. Let them question." "Adrien, this is grave," Vincent's tone hardened. "If your associates suspect you're under investigation, if they believe there's any chance she's collaborating with the feds, they will distance themselves. You'll forfeit allies, lose contracts, squander respect. Then they are cowards. They are prudent, and rightly so." Vincent emphatically struck the desk. "You've known this woman for 6 weeks. 6 weeks, and you're prepared to jeopardize everything you've built, simply because Your son favors her? Because she's attractive? Because she evokes a sentiment within you? A profound silence descended upon the room. Adrien's gaze turned icy. Be mindful, Vincent. Someone has to articulate it. Vincent looked at Nena, his expression almost sympathetic. She must depart for her own safety and yours. Sergio won't cease with rumors. He'll escalate, and when he does, she'll become the target. He's correct, Na stated softly. All eyes turned to her. She stepped into the room, her voice steadier than she felt. This narrative, it's patently false, yet it's irrelevant. The damage is inflicted. People credit it. She met Adrien's gaze. I should exit, revert to my former existence. If I'm absent, Sergio possesses no leverage against you. No, Adrien, his voice, sharp as a blade, cut her off. Adrien, please. I reiterated, no. He rose, his presence dominating the space. You are not departing, but your interests... I'm not concerned with my interests at this moment. I prioritize what is just. Adrien moved around the desk, his eyes unwavering from hers. You are blameless. You have committed no transgression, and I refuse to validate Sergio's fabrications by appearing to acknowledge your culpability. Boss, Rocco interjected cautiously, perhaps we should consider... I am not considering anything. Adrien's voice intensified. This is a snare. Sergio desires my expulsion of her. He wants me to appear feeble. He wants everyone to believe he can manipulate me into abandoning someone under my protection. And I will not comply. Vincent shook his head. Your emotions are clouding your discernment. My discernment is impeccably lucid. Adrien turned to his inner circle. Nah, Hayes remains. Anyone who objects can depart. Anyone who credits Sergio's falsehoods can depart. Anyone who believes I render decisions based on unsubstantiated rumors can vacate my premises now. A heavy silence permeated the room. This will come at a cost, Vincent warned. Then it costs me. Adrien's jaw tightened. But she remains. That is my definitive stance. Na's throat constricted. He was jeopardizing everything, his standing, his alliances, his meticulously constructed empire for her sake. Vincent gathered his documents, his expression grave. I trust you comprehend your actions. I do. One by one, the men filed out, leaving Na and Adrien in solitude. You shouldn't have initiated that, Na whispered. Adrien moved closer, halting mere inches from her. Yes, I should have. They are correct. I am a burden. You are the sole authentic entity in my existence. His voice softened, raw and truthful, in a manner she had never before witnessed. Everyone else possesses an ulterior motive, a stratagem, something they covet from me. But you simply care for Luca, for upholding what is right. You do not desire my wealth or my authority. You merely wish to assist, Adrien. When Vincent inquired if I was prepared to risk everything, the answer is unequivocally yes. For you, for Luca, for what you have bestowed upon us. His hand rose, gently cupping her face. Therefore, no, you are not departing, not due to untruths, not due to intimidations, not due to anything. Understood? Na was speechless, capable only of a nod. Excellent. Adrien lowered his hand, his expression softening. Now, go check on Luca. He's been concerned about you. Na departed on trembling legs, her heart pounding, acutely aware that everything had irrevocably shifted. Behind her, Adrien stood alone in his study, fully cognizant that he had, for the first time in his life, unequivocally chosen his heart over his intellect, and felt not an iota of regret. The aftermath of the gala manifested swiftly. By morning, 2 more of Adrien's business partners had canceled meetings. A significant shipping contract dissolved. Whispers permeated the organization. Some credited the rumors. Others questioned Adriene's judgment in retaining Mina. Despite the contention, Sergio was prevailing. Mina perceived it in the averted gazes of the staff, in the palpable tension that hung over the estate like a storm front, in the constant clenching of Adriene's jaw, and his ceaseless phone calls concerning damage control. She was the genesis of this. Her presence had become a vulnerability Sergio could exploit, and everyone was acutely aware of it. Everyone, that is, except Luca. Why is Papa so ill-tempered? he inquired during their afternoon reading session in the garden. He's simply managing work-related matters, Na replied, forcing a smile. Is it because of you? Na's breath hitched. Why would you consider that? Luca shrugged, his 6-year-old wisdom penetrating directly to the truth. I heard Marco and Tony discussing it. They said Papa is arguing with his friends because of you, that malicious individuals are spreading unpleasantries. But they are erroneous, Luca. Luca looked up at her with absolute conviction. You are the finest person I know, even superior to Dr. Chen, and she preserved my life. Na's eyes welled. You're quite remarkable yourself, buddy. Are you planning to leave? The question landed like a physical blow. What? Everyone eventually departs. My mother left. My previous nanny left. Even Grandma no longer visits. Luca's voice grew smaller. Are you planning to leave too? Na enveloped him in a tight embrace. No, my dearest. I am not going anywhere. I promise. She shouldn't have promised. She had no inkling of what the morrow held. Whether Adrien would ultimately decide she was too burdensome. Whether Sergio's campaign would compel her departure. Yet Luca was gazing at her with those enormous, trusting eyes. I promise, she whispered. Adrien discovered them an hour later, Nena reading, while Luca dozed against her shoulder in the receding sunlight. He stood observing for a moment, a constriction in his chest. Vincent's words from the preceding night reverberated. You're permitting your emotions to obscure your judgment. Perhaps he was, but contemplating his son, tranquil, secure, content. Adrien found himself indifferent. Luca, he said softly, it's time to go inside. Luca stirred, blinking sleepily. Can Na accompany us? She has the evening off. Go wash up for dinner. Luca hugged Na. Good night, and trudged toward the house, leaving them alone in the garden. You should also take the evening off, Adrien suggested. You've been with him all day. I don't mind. Nah. His voice was gentle but firm. Rest, that is an imperative. She nodded and departed, and Adrien watched her go, his mind a labyrinth of thoughts he preferred not to scrutinize. Sleep eluded him that night. Adrien sat in his study at 11 p.m., nursing a scotch and scrutinizing security reports that all conveyed the same message. Sergio was escalating. More rumors, intensified pressure on Adrien as allies, further attempts to isolate him. The astute maneuver was unequivocally clear. Remove Nena, disprove the allegations, stabilize his organization. Yet, each time he contemplated it, something within him revolted. A gentle knock interrupted his musings. Papa! Adrien looked up to find Luca in the doorway, clutching his dinosaur, his hair disheveled from sleep. Why are you awake? Adrien set down his glass and opened his arms. Luca climbed into his lap, a rare occurrence lately. Bad dream about what? Nah, leaving, like Mama did. Luca's voice was faint. You're not going to make her depart, are you? Adrien's jaw tightened. What prompts you to think that? Vincent said you should. I overheard him yesterday. He said she's complicating matters. Adrien made a mental note to address Vincent about discussing business where Luca could overhear. Things are occasionally complex. That does not mean we abandon individuals. Luca was silent for a moment, then asked, Papa, do you like Nena? The question caught Adrien off guard. Of course I like her. She cares for you diligently. No, I mean... Luca scrunched up his face, struggling for words. Do you like her as you liked Mama? Adrien's heart skipped a beat. Luca? Because I believe she likes you, and I like her, so perhaps she could remain perpetually. His voice brimmed with hope, envisioning a family. Adrien was at a loss for words. His son was 6 years old, still believing in a world governed by simplicity and happiness. It's more intricate than that, he finally stated. Why? Because Adrien struggled to articulate his reality to someone who still credited happy endings. Because people fabricate, Luca. They feign one identity when they are truly another. They desire things from you, and you cannot always discern who is genuine and who is feigning. Luca tilted his head, pondering this with the gravity of a much older child. Have I ever lied to you, Papa? No, of course not. Have you ever lied to me? Adrien hesitated. He had concealed things, certainly, protected Luca from the harsher aspects of their world. I have withheld information from you to ensure your safety? That's different, Luca decided. Then, with the unadorned wisdom of a child, he declared, Everyone lies, Papa. Even the good ones, Luca asserted with conviction. Vincent fibs to offer comfort. Rocco fabricates fanciful tales about vegetables. Dr. Chin misled regarding the pain of a shot. Adrien almost cracked a smile, conceding the truth of these observations. However, Luca declared with unwavering certainty, Nena never lies, not even the tiniest fibs. When I inquire about potential pain, she's honest. If I ask if she's sad, she doesn't pretend otherwise. When I questioned if she was frightened when the bad man grabbed her, she admitted yes, explaining that bravery isn't the absence of fear. Adrien's breath hitched. Everyone lies, Luca reiterated, except Nena. The words struck Adrien with palpable force. He reflected on the preceding 6 weeks. Every scrutinizing test, every lurking suspicion, every moment they'd anticipated Nena's mask slipping, her true colors emerging, some hidden agenda revealing itself. Yet, it never happened. She diligently returned every planted item, answered every query with candor, even when the truth cast her in an unfavorable light. She openly admitted fear, ignorance, and the need for assistance. She never attempted manipulation, engaged in games, or sought anything beyond what she'd been given. In a world permeated by self-interest, where every smile concealed a potential threat, where trust often served as a weapon, Nena remained unflinchingly, almost painfully, authentic. Everyone lies, Papa, except Nena. Adrien's chest tightened. All this time, he had been waiting for her facade to crumble, waiting for the moment she'd unveil her true intentions, waiting for proof that she was just like everyone else in his existence. But she wasn't. She never had been. And imperceptibly, his initial gratitude for her care of Luca had transformed into something profoundly different, something entirely unrelated to his son and intrinsically linked to the way she challenged him, defied him, and refused to be intimidated by his world, all while maintaining an unyielding kindness within it, the way she had regarded him in the study after the gala, not with apprehension or calculation, but with genuine concern for the personal cost of his decisions. The way his day felt incomplete until he witnessed her smile. The way he found himself contriving excuses to return home early, to check on Luca, simply to catch a glimpse of her, to walk past her room at night and feel an unnameable tension dissipate, simply knowing she was secure under his roof. "Oh, Papa," Luca's voice broke his reverie. "Are you okay?" Adrien realized his hands trembled slightly. He carefully set Luca down, his mind swirling. "Yeah, buddy, I'm okay." His voice was hoarse. "You should get back to bed." "You're not going to make Nena leave, are you?" "No." Adrien's voice was firm, resolute. "She's not going anywhere." Luca hugged him tightly. "Good, because I love her." The words echoed in Adrien's mind long after Luca had returned to bed. I love her, simple, honest, real. Adrien walked to his window, gazing out over the estate grounds, and finally permitted himself to acknowledge the truth he had so fiercely resisted. He had been falling for Nena Hayes since the moment he discovered her asleep on a hospital floor with his son. Perhaps even before that, from the instant she had met his gaze without fear and promised to stay with a terrified little boy. She was the sole genuine element in his life, the only person who desired nothing from him except the liberty to care. She had entered his fortress and, somehow, made it feel like a home. And he had been too afraid to admit it until his 6-year-old son dismantled all his carefully constructed defenses with 8 profound words. "Everyone lies, Papa, except Nena." Adrien pressed his palm against the cool glass, at last allowing himself to embrace it all. The fear, the longing, the deep-seated need to keep her safe, to keep her close, to stop pretending this was merely about Luca. Tomorrow, Sergio would remain a threat. His allies would still waver, the rumors would continue to circulate. But tonight, Adrien Romano permitted himself to admit he had fallen in love with the woman who had irrevocably altered everything. And there was no turning back. 6 weeks after Luca's innocent revelation transformed everything, Nana sat beneath an ancient oak in the estate's sprawling garden, rereading Where the Wild Things Are for what felt like the 100th time. Again? Luca groaned playfully, though a smile played on his lips. He looked remarkably different now, healthier, with a rosy glow in his cheeks, renewed energy in his movements, and the former hollowness vanished from his eyes. Dr. Chin, at his last checkup, had called it a miracle. Nana simply understood it as the natural outcome when a child feels secure. It's a classic, Nana defended. Besides, you adore this one. I love it because you love it, Luca responded, leaning contentedly against her shoulder. Over the past month, the garden had become their sanctuary. After all the turmoil, the rumors, the threats, the pervasive tension, Adrien had gradually relaxed the restrictions. No more armed escorts to the library, no more locked wings. The formidable fortress had softened, beginning to genuinely feel like a home. The staff, too, had undergone a subtle transformation. Rosa now smiled warmly at her. Marco joked freely about Luca's latest antics. Even Rocco grudgingly admitted she was all right after she'd bested him at chess 3 times consecutively. She belonged here. Somehow, impossibly, this peculiar world had become her own. Nana, Luca's voice interrupted her thoughts. Can I ask you something? Always. Are you going to marry Papa? Nana nearly dropped the book. What? Vincent said Papa has been different since you came. Happier. And I heard Marco tell Tony that you and Papa look at each other weird. Luca tilted his head. Is that what grown-ups do when they like each other? A flush rapidly spread across Nana's face. Luca, because I think it would be really cool if you married him. Then you could be here forever. Forever. Not just regular forever. Nana's throat tightened. Over the preceding weeks, a subtle shift had indeed occurred between her and Adrien. Lingering glances across the dinner table, his hand brushing hers as he passed her coffee, the way he had begun joining their reading sessions, sitting quietly nearby, simply present. Neither of them had acknowledged it, nor had they articulated it. But Luca, with his 6-year-old sagacity, had perceived it nonetheless. Your father and I, Nana struggled for words. We care about each other, but it's complicated. Why do grown-ups always say that? Luca sighed dramatically. Things are only complicated if you make them complicated. When did you get so wise? I'm 6.5 now, practically ancient. Nana laughed, pulling him closer, inhaling the simple tranquility of the moment. Spring had arrived, the garden a riot of colorful blooms planted by Rosa. Birds sang in the trees. Brutus dozed nearby, his massive body sprawled in the sunshine. Mind if I join you? Nana looked up to find Adrien walking across the lawn. No suit jacket today, just slacks and a white shirt with sleeves rolled up. No Rocco hovering discreetly, no security detail shadowing his every step. Just him. Papa! Luca leaped up. Nana's reading our book again. I heard. Adrien's lips twitched. I could hear you groaning from my office. I wasn't groaning that loud. You were pretty loud, buddy. Adrien's eyes met Nana's, something warm and unguarded in their depths. Mind if I sit? It's your garden, Nana said, suddenly shy. He settled beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Luca immediately wedged himself between them, forcing them even closer. Luca? Adrien warned gently. What? There's not enough room. Luca's voice was pure innocence, yet his grin was undeniably mischievous. Nana bit back a smile. The child was playing matchmaker, and doing a surprisingly effective job of it. Read, Nana, Luca commanded, so she did. And as Max sailed away to Where the Wild Things Are, Nana felt Adrien's arm settle behind her on the tree trunk. Not touching, not quite, but undeniably there. Present. Protective. When she finished, Luca announced he wanted to play with Brutus and scampered off, leaving them alone in the dapple shade. He's not subtle, Adrien said quietly. No, he's not. Nana closed the book, her fingers tracing the worn cover. Did you know I bought this book 6 years ago? I was broke, barely making rent, but I saw it in a used bookstore and thought someday I'd read it to kids who needed it. And now I read it to a kid who's changed my life. She looked up at Adrien. You know what's funny? That night at the hospital, I thought I was there by mistake. Wrong room, wrong kid, just a random accident." "It wasn't an accident," Adrien's voice was soft. "I don't believe in accidents anymore." "No." He shifted slightly, and suddenly his hand was covering hers on the book. "Sergio's backing off, by the way. Turns out publicly calling someone a federal informant when you have no proof is a good way to lose credibility. Most of my allies have returned, stronger than before, actually. I heard. Rocco mentioned it. Mark Sullivan accepted a plea deal, 20 years, no parole. He won't bother you again." Nana nodded. She had known, but hearing it confirmed still brought a wave of relief. "And you," Adrien continued, his thumb brushing across her knuckles, "have officially been here 3 months, which means you've passed your probation period. I didn't know I was on probation. Everyone's on probation in my world." His eyes searched hers. "But you're not in my world anymore, Nana. You are my world. You and Luca." Nana's breath hitched. "Adrien, that first night when I found you sleeping on the floor with my son, I thought you were a threat, an anomaly, something to be investigated and neutralized." His voice dropped. "I didn't realize you were an answer." "An answer to what?" "To the question I had stopped asking, whether someone could exist in my life without an agenda, whether trust was still possible, whether I could be more than just what I do." He cupped her face gently. "You didn't just save my son, Nana. You saved me too." Tears blurred Nana's vision. "I was just being myself." "I know," Adrien whispered. "That's what made it extraordinary." He leaned closer, his forehead resting against hers. "Stay. Not as Luca's caretaker, not as an employee. Stay as family, as mine. Adrien Romano, if you'll have us, are you asking me to?" "I am. I'm asking you to forge a life here with me, with Luca. No more trials, no more doubt. Just us." Na's response was immediate and profound, bridging the space between them. Her lips met his in a kiss infused with the promise of hope and fresh starts. When they eventually separated, Luca's voice drifted through the garden. "Finally! I honestly thought you'd never kiss her, Papa." They glanced over to discover him alongside Rocco, Marco, Rosa, and nearly half of the household staff, all making rather unconvincing attempts to feign indifference. Adrien let out a groan. "We are never going to live this down." "Nope," Na cheerfully concurred, chuckling. But it didn't matter. Just 3 months prior, she had arrived at this estate with nothing more than a well-worn book and a solemn vow to stay with a frightened little boy. Now she had stumbled upon everything she hadn't realized she was searching for: a family, a true home, and a love blossoming from the most improbable origins. It all began during one night on a hospital floor, when a complete stranger chose compassion over expediency. Adrien had once remarked that his gift transformed her life. He was absolutely right, yet not because of financial security, safety, or safeguarding. Rather, he had bestowed upon her something far more precious than any of those things: a sanctuary where she belonged, where she was cherished, where love wasn't entangled by deceit or ulterior motives, a place where she was, at last, truly home. "Come on," Adrien urged, rising and gently drawing her to her feet with him. "Let's go greet our audience before they start scheduling the wedding." "Too late," Luca yelled. "Rosa says June is absolutely ideal for weddings." Na laughed, her hand firmly intertwined with Adrien's, and allowed herself to be guided toward their eccentric, marvelous, perfectly imperfect family. The delightful uproar had only just begun.